Thank you for staying with us. It's time to look at the stories making the headlines this morning and begin here with the Nation newspaper. The CJN is talking about how to stop conflicting rulings in the country. Frivolous attacks and charges to attract consequences. That's according to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Another story here says, Obi visits Afe Babalola in Ado-Ekiti. Farotimi gets 50 million naira bail. Better days ahead with Tinubu's reform, says Amakri. RMAFC insists on constitutional rights to VAT allocation. 96th extension of FCCPC probe of airfares to other airlines. These are the major stories making the front page of The Nation. Chew the Blueprint newspaper, growing negative perception, not good for the judiciary. That's the Chief Justice of Nigeria once again. Self-reflection, strategic planning key. Dongban Mensem says, our judiciary has proud history of dispensing justice without fear and favor. According to the Attorney General of the Federation, FCTA will continue to support the judiciary. That's Wiki saying that. FCT Pilgrim Board receives 270 million naira as 2024 hatch fund. Let's tackle corruption from the top. Obasanjo says we need unity to confront the menace. Abbas says tax reform bill, Senate Southeast caucus opts for wider consultations. Nigeria must reduce under 5 mortality rate. UNICEF says Lokarawa terror group will soon be history. The Chief of Army Staff, Oluyede, as assured. Next is the Daily Trust. Still on tax reform, Southeast Senate caucus 6 wider consultations. Bill's attempt to usurp RMAFC's responsibility. This is the major story on the front page of Daily Trust. To the first news, MDAs must justify 2024 allocations or lose 2025 budget funding. The Senate is quoted as saying, another story here says, court 50 million naira bail ruling for Farotimi set stage for new legal battle. NTAA wants air peace, refund passenger or face sanctions. External opinions must not sway justice, CJN cautions judicial officers. Nigeria, Saudi Arabia discuss iron ore to steel partnership. The Karawa Group will soon be history, says Army Chief. On serial fraud, Mama Boko Haram jailed for 6th time in 30 months over 6 million naira car scam. The major stories on the front page of the first news. Going to the Daily Times. Affirmative action for women, a necessary corrective measure, says Abbas. The Vice President, Shatima, praises Nigeria's role in the global economy. FRC to prosecute passenger for assaulting officers. Wiki commends the judiciary for resilience, professionalism at this year's conference. Opposition triumph in Ghana's signpost end of APC's oppressive rule in 2027. That's according to the People's Democratic Party. And finally with me here is Daily Independence. 2027, it is injustice to preclude North from running. Article says the South would have done 17 years, North 11 years. And that's it on Daily Independent. Theophilus.
Well, from our end, the Platform Times says here, child marriage costs Nigeria over 17 trillion naira annually, says report. Cyprus University seizes Nigerian graduate certificates over Kano government's debt. 10,000 Nigerians detained for immigration offenses in 2024, says Shatima. Police to arrest 601 account holders over Flutterwave's 21.2 billion naira glitch. Nigerian News Direct says, insecurity. We're hitting them hard. Lokarawa terror group will soon be history, says Chief of Army Staff. Says cross-border cooperation in critical in tackling terror group. Stresses need for military to step up efforts in fighting terrorism. Governor Nnamdi signs Jigawa Electricity Regulatory Commission bill into law. 2025 budget, Zulum presents 584.76 billion naira budget, prioritizes education, economic development. The Leadership newspaper says, we'll crush Lukarawa terror group soon, says Chief of Army Staff. Akume Atiku trade words ever 2027 presidency. 2 trillion naira debt, darkness looms as NMDPRA halts gas supply to Gencos. The Nigeria says here, Lukarawa terror group in disarray, driven to Niger reps, says Army Chief Oluyede. There will soon be history as Niger is also hitting them from their end. Wiki backs amendment of Ted Fund Act to accommodate law school. Lambast those criticizing him for supporting Judiciary. Farotimi arraigned, granted 50 million naira bail. Edo Tribunal sitting marred by chaos thuggery. Ajayi files petition to avoid Ayedatiwa's victory. In Ondo State. The Hope newspaper. OBJ, corruption is best fought at top level. Says fighting graft, not one-off, must be continuous. Not all leaders were ordained by God, ex-president counters. Man detained for insulting court president in Ondo State. Jakba, UK issued 300,000 visas to Nigerians in 2 years, says Envoy. And finally from my end, Sporting Life newspaper. It says injury update. Osimhen out till 2025. Undergoes MRI examination. MRI examination reveals moderate strain and bleeding in the right posterior upper muscle. Treatment initiated already. Simon plays down goal heroics. Silva to Elavon. Iwobi can play in different positions. Van Nistelrooy gives update on Indy's injury. Of this and many more in the Sporting Life newspaper this morning.
All right, Theophilus, I'm sure our viewers have been updated on the major stories, making the front page of the newspaper this morning. Very interesting stories. I think the major high point for me, which will also form part of our conversation, is, the NTA also warning airpeace, asking for a refund for passenger or face sanctions. There's been a whole lot of attention on the aviation sector more recently, and also on this, inquiry or attempt to, question the airpeace on obstruction and all of that. It's going to be part of our conversation. But we've seen the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, also coming out to say that the FCCPC did not go through due process to begin that inquiry process, and they do not actually have the right if they have not been able to, ask questions about some of the concerns of the local carriers, because these carriers, according to the ministers, are facing some issues. Ease of doing business is another issue, the cost of fuel and all of that, having to access major terminals, including outside the country. So even the local carriers themselves even have their issues, which may or may not have implication on the passengers themselves. But this should, according to the minister, have been a collaboration with the NCAA and not just the FCCPC. Truly.
In all of this, we do expect that there will be an amicable resolution to this crisis. Let's have business. Let's have a business environment where everyone can thrive, and not look over their backs and to get some knocks from here and there. Let's have a cool business environment where we can all do our businesses and still make our money and still develop local communities.
And it's very important to actually have, balance, while we're also considering the interest of the consumer. I mean, the passengers themselves and all
consider
of that.
The interest of the airlines too.
Consider the interest of the airlines and their investments in businesses. You should also consider what they have to go through. While listening to the press statement of the airline in question, they also said they were actually running at a loss. That, well, this got a whole lot of reactions online, but according to the airline, they said that a 1 hour flight should take about 500,000 or more, and we're running it currently on 200, 150. But having that for a 1 hour flight, we should be asking ourselves questions whether the average Nigerian can pay that amount for just a 1 hour flight for Lagos to Abuja and other, other places within the country. Perhaps we should be looking at privatization of our airport, concession of our airports, to ensure that, these things are lesser on the passengers and not just putting so much
We've had this discussion in the past, and what the guests we had here said at a point was that we need our local carriers. If we had our own indigenous local carrier, yes, a government carrier, quite all right, it will lessen the burden, because once they reduce their price, others will be forced to reduce their price. So it creates a balanced environment for those in the practitioners to thrive in the aviation sector and not have a situation whereby private investment comes in and they start exploiting Nigerians because of the kind of profits they have to make or what they are going through in the market. It will create a balance, because the local carrier will be able to do his job to ensure that ticket prices are reduced, and Nigerians will definitely go to them. So private investments that are in the country already will follow suit, because
I'm very much interested in what this inquiry will mean for the airline itself and the aviation sector, especially at this time that we are looking into investment. But we have an aviation stakeholder that will be talking to us in the course of the program. Before that, coming up on TVC Breakfast, we will be discussing the best preventive measures for cervical cancer and how it can be eliminated. Stay with us.